order. If you would, join me in a short word of prayer and then the pledge. Let us pray. To Heavenly Father, once again, Lord, we just thank you for your mercy and your grace. Father, we just continue to just pray, Lord God, for unity, Lord God, in Gulf County, Lord God, as we come, Lord God, to make decisions concerning your people. We just pray for wisdom. We pray for knowledge, Lord God. We just pray for your love, Lord God. And Father, we just thank you for the people of Gulf County, Lord God, as we represent them, Lord God. We just pray, Lord, that we do it decent and in order. Now, Father, we do thank you, Lord God, for each and every one that's here today. Bless our homes, Lord God. Bless our families. We give you praise, glory, and honor. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good morning to all. We'll go ahead on and get it started. Mr. Novak.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, good morning. City Commissioners, staff, good morning. We're here under the notice that we had posted in our local publication for a conflict resolution meeting for February 18th at 9 a.m. Commissioners, in front of you, I have set forth an index of documents that have been exchanged between the city and the county, as well as the statutes that we'll review this morning. Just for the public, and I know the City Commission, the new elected officials, or the staff that are not familiar with the process, before I get into the actual itemized agenda issues, when a conflicting government agency between the city and the county such as this, there's provisions under the Florida statute that require both the city and the county to come together and try to resolve these issues before you go to court. So in a nutshell, it's not a mediation, but for anybody in the public or people who are familiar with the mediation process, it's exactly what this is. Generally, the statute talks about getting one elected official and essential staff together. They talk about the particular issue, and if they cannot come to some resolution, the statute then has steps and triggering effects that will be put in place to enable a city or a county to go to court and try to seek their remedies. So for the purposes of today, the last, I think, 3.5 weeks or so, we've gone back and forth with the city on a particular issue and an ordinance that they've had one reading on, 616, and you had voted on January 28th to pass a resolution to trigger the conflict resolution in an effort to avoid going to court. It's not good for the city, it's not good for the county, it's not good for anybody. So what we're going to do today is go through that mediation process. It's not that, it's called conflict resolution. We're going to identify the actual act. We'll go through the chronology. We'll provide you a detailed summary from the county's perspective of the actual ordinance that's been introduced and has had one reading on January 21st, and it's up for a second reading and adoption on March 4th. We'll provide you a chronology that's in front of you of the correspondence that's going back and forth. We'll also provide you a historical, the precedent that's been set. We entered this issue back in 2020 between the city and the county, and with the mayor's help and the chairman's help and the staff, we were able to come up with a resolution similar to this under a conflict resolution meeting, but it wasn't both bodies all together at the same time. Having you all in the same room at the same time necessitates sunshine and notice and the public all to be here, which is something I think you all encouraged on the 28th at your regular meeting. And I attended the city meeting on February 4th, and they embraced that idea, and they all wanted to be in attendance as well. So hopefully all 10 of you today can come to some resolution. Following providing you the dialogue and the communications and going back and forth, what we'll do is then the county will provide, as the challenging government entity, will provide both the city, this commission, the staff, and the public, the procedural steps, the due process deficiencies, and the legal reasons why this would not pass muster. From that, we'll also provide the city our concerns with regards to the annexation and how it violates enclaves, compactness, urban character, and the other statute requirements in order to pass an annexation. This is a voluntary annexation under the statute 171. Following that, we're going to have the staff. We have some folks that are working with the county. They're going to provide you a quick summary of some of the concerns that you've raised back on the 28th and historically prior to this on your past annexation, so that the public, the city commission, the residents of the city know that your concerns are out in the open. You can speak about them. I'll provide you the law. I'll provide you the statement of facts. I'll tell you why it will not pass muster and cannot annex it into the city. And then we'll also have some, hopefully from the commission, to provide some additional context of what's going on out there, historically what you've done out in this corridor, and what you have planned coming forward, because I think it's important that you all provide that to the public. Following that, we'll have a summation and public comment, county commission comment, and then we'll give it to the city, and hopefully their staff, the mayor, and the city commissioners can open a dialogue and respond to your concerns. Hopefully then you all have it out in the open, and you can then start addressing some type of resolution. If we don't reach a resolution today, then there's steps, as I mentioned, to go through the statute, where you will, they'll move towards March 4th. They have a second reading. They've advertised it. One thing I want to emphasize for you commissioners today, and I spoke to the city commissioners on February 4th, their first reading on January 21st was simply that. It was a first reading. They advertised it. They had their first reading. We didn't receive numerous requirements on the statute of reporting and data and certified statements and notice of any of those things 10 or 15 days prior to the first, which is something we'll bring up. But again, I want to say to the 5 county commissioners and the 5 city commissioners, it was just a first reading on the 21st of January. That March 4th, when they come back, they'll have all this information. They'll have your concerns. Ideally, they'll hear from their constituents. And then when they go in, they'll make a very informed decision on March 4th as to whether or not this would pass muster and pass the court's statutory review. And then not only ours, in terms of the county basically saying that this is potential litigation, you have adjacent property owners that we're going to talk about that could be potential litigation. So we want, as partners in a cooperative spirit with the city, for them to go into this with open eyes, understand what your concerns are, that you will take legal action. And then obviously there's other folks. Under the statute, they were required to notify the adjacent property owners by letter. I don't know that that's been happened. We talked about that at the February 4th meeting. I encourage them to invite those folks to this meeting today, but this is not the hearings for those public hearings for the city. This is a conflict resolution between the county and the city. So I don't know if that's been done, but we'll go through that as well. But those are the steps. It's kind of a summation of where we're going to go with this. In your index, if you open your books, I'll take you through. I've given you kind of an overview of where we're at. The second thing I wanted to do is tell you and the public why we're all here. Ordinance 616. As I mentioned before, I'll give you a brief overview. It's an ordinance to potentially voluntarily annex in approximately 113 acres. It's parcel ID 04269-000R. It's Sarah Noah Group is the owner, and it's along Premier Drive adjacent to the industrial road. It's bordered on the west-southwest, and you'll see a map within your index there by the city wastewater treatment plant, Faraway Port LLC, and the St. Joe Company parcel. And that would be to the west-southwest on that map in your index, which is number 2. Directly east-northeast, you'll find on that map, commissioners, is Bayou Concrete LLC, Ditch Diggers LLC, and St. Joe parcel. St. Joe Company parcel. Again, that's east-northeast, and it's referred to up there as well. And then directly behind it, parcel ID 04268-900R is the St. Joe Company. It's 27 acres. That would be due north along the canal. This ordinance, again, is for a voluntary annexation of approximately 113 acres to come into the city of Port St. Joe. And the map depicts that and shows you that the only parcel that would then not be part of the city of Port St. Joe would be the last parcel I just mentioned, directly behind it along the canal, which would be the St. Joe Company parcel 04268. That's the subject of why we're here. That's what you had discussed back on January 28th. You had asked me to go to the city meeting following that, which we did. We sent a letter, and I'll go through those steps with you right now. In your binders, you'll see there on Mr. Anderson, the city manager, sent a letter to Michael Hammond on the 23rd of January, 2 days after their first hearing. In the letter, it's their statutory requirement to notify the county that they have had their first reading and that they'll proceed with the second on March 4th. And you'll see that as number 3 marked in your index. Immediately that day, under the county's standing policy, that the county in 2021 adopted the policy that it would oppose any future voluntary annexations. We were instructed to send a letter to the city the same day, and on number 4 you'll see a certified and electronic mail letter to the city manager and copy to the city commissioners of just that policy of the county to oppose it, but you obviously had not met yet. If you go to number 5 in the chronology in the index of what's transpired in the last 3 weeks, you all met in your regular meeting on the 28th of January. From that meeting, you all voted unanimously to do 2 things: oppose the ordinance 616, and you instructed me to commence with the conflict resolution process. I explained that to you at that meeting, and directly behind that 3-page letter is a copy of your resolution 2025-11. By statute, you're required to adopt that resolution. In my letter, I laid out for the city commissioners and their staff exactly what the conflict was, what the justification for initiating the conflict resolution process was, a proposed date and location for the assessment meeting, and then suggestions on who could be there and how we could proceed. From that meeting also in January, you also had a workshop, if you all recall, earlier in the month when all 5 of you met up at the Honeyville Center. You all encouraged each other in that open public meeting to have workshops with both of the cities. There's a list of issues that you all wanted to meet with them both about in the new year. From the meeting on the 28th, you all encouraged Chairman Quinn and with my assistance to seek out the city's cooperation and possibly doing a workshop in lieu of a conflict resolution so you could talk about the other 20 items. You gave me those instructions. I went to their next regular meeting on February 4th. I made that request to the city commissioners, and ultimately they decided they wanted just to focus on this one issue. They wanted all 5 in attendance, and there was a mutual agreement for the date and the time, which we're here for today. So if you take that letter there on this February 4th after that meeting, I memorialized the date, time, and location in the letter sent to them, and when we've moved forward, fast forward to today. One of the things that we need to do in this conflict resolution meeting, commissioners, is flesh out exactly for the city and the city residents why you have a resolution to potentially sue. And it's incredibly important that you have that out there. It's one thing for me to write it in a lawsuit, in an injunction, and a pleading. The reason the statute's in place is because the legislature wants to avoid this at all costs. What I put in the back of each of your binders is both of the statutes that Clint's referenced, that I've referenced in our letters back and forth, that we've all become familiar with, unfortunately, over the 2020 experience and now. I'll read you the legislature's language is exactly why they have this in place. The purpose and intent of this act is to promote, protect, and improve the public health, safety, and welfare, and to enhance intergovernmental coordination efforts by the creation of a governmental conflict resolution procedure that we can provide an equitable, expeditious, effective, inexpensive method for resolution of conflicts between and among local and regional governments. It is the intent of the legislature that conflicts between government entities be resolved to the greatest extent possible without litigation. And so on January 28th, you all spoke about that with the staff. This is your effort to try to meet that purpose and intent and avoid expensive litigation and drawn-out process in the court system. So it's our goal, I believe it's your sincere intent today, to find that middle ground. With that, in the index that you have in front of you, each of you, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the legal requirements of the City of Port St. Joe under the Statute 171. We're going to speak about what they have or have not done at this point, and again, put them out there so that hopefully we can step back from the March 4th date and that they can analyze it with all this information. There's a procedural deficiencies and there's legal deficiencies, and I'm going to go over a couple of those right now. Statute 171 provides a couple different items, and in your packet, that would be number 7. Very first, it talks about the purpose of the act, and it's on the Municipal Annexation Act. The purpose of the act is to set forth procedures for adjusting the boundaries of municipalities such as the City of St. Joe through annexation, and to set forth criteria for determining annexations that may take place. They set forth the criteria. The very first one is to ensure sound urban development and accommodation to growth. The second would be to establish uniform legislative standards throughout the state for the adjustment of municipal boundaries. The third would be to ensure efficient provision of urban services to areas that become urban in character. And the fourth would be to ensure areas that are not annexed unless municipal service can be provided to those areas. As you go through the Statute 171, it talks about the purpose of why we're here. you'll go immediately to definitions under the third page. And I'll provide you 3 definitions under the statute, the very first being enclave. 171031 is a definition. What you have currently right now, I apologize. Commissioners, let me do the procedures first, and then I'll go to the legal arguments. Under the procedures, prerequisites to annexation, there are several things under the statute 171 that I provided to you that are in front of you. The first would be maps. The second would be statements certifying that. What I want to have you each do is turn to that 171042 and follow the following law required by the state of Florida. It's prior to commencing the annexation procedures under statute 171, the governing body of the municipality should prepare a report setting forth the plans to provide urban services to an area to be annexed, and a report should include the following. A, maps of the municipality and adjacent territory showing the present proposed municipal boundaries and present major trunk water mains, sewer interceptors, outfalls, proposed extensions of such mains. B, a statement certifying the area may be annexed meets the criteria of 171043. C, a statement setting forth plans in the municipality for extending the area to be annexed. Each major municipal service performed with the municipality at the time of the annexation, specifically such plans, the provider shall be extending urban services except as otherwise provided herein to the area to be annexed. If you turn to the next page, it has additional requirements. It states under number 2, not fewer than 15 days prior to commencing the annexation procedures under 171, which they start on January 21, the governing body of the municipality, City of Port St. Joe, shall file a copy of the report required by this section with the Board of County Commissioners of the county where the municipality is located. Failure to timely file the report as required in this subsection may be the basis for a cause of action to invalidate the annexation. 3, the governing body of the municipality, City of Port St. Joe, shall, not less than 10 days prior to the date set for the first public hearing required by 171, mail a written notice to each person who resides or owns property within the area proposed to be annexed. The notice must describe the annexation proposal, the time and place for each public hearing to be held regarding annexation, the place or places within the municipality where the proposed ordinance may be inspected by the public. A copy of the notice must be kept available for public inspection during the regular business hours of the office of the clerk of the governing body. Again, I indicated to you on February 4th, I'd asked those questions. As I sit here today, I don't have those reports. I don't know those notifications been sent to the adjacent property owners. The statute under 171043 that it just references there, the character of the area to be annexed. And we'll go into that, each one of these.
Jeremy, what statute are you reading from?
171043, 042, the voluntary annexations, that's correct.
Involuntary.
No, that's voluntary. That's correct. We'll go into the character of the area to be annexed. You have the purpose of the subsection. I'll get you to that page, Commissioners. Let's go to the definitions, number 6 on your index, Commissioners. First and foremost, we have the enclave that I spoke to. Several of the things that we put in our additional letters to you each indicate what the definition of each of these would be. The enclave, as I indicated before, it's defined as following: any unincorporated, improved, or developed area that is enclosed within and bounded on all sides by a single municipality, or any unincorporated, improved area that is enclosed within and bounded by a single municipality or a natural man-made obstacle. We've made the argument in the past about enclaves being created. I did a recital for you for each of the properties that are going to be incorporated or have been made part of the city. And now we're indicated the one parcel that will be surrounded by all city properties meeting the specific definition of an enclave. The second was the compactness, meaning the concentration of a piece of property in a single area, precludes any action which would create enclaves. Any annexation proceeding in any county and state shall be designed in such a manner as to ensure that the area will be reasonably compact. The third would be the urban character. That means any area used intensely for residential, urban creation, recreational or conservation, parklands, commercial, industrial, institutional. In our notices to them, we've indicated to them that those will be your legal arguments. The compactness, you have the urban development, also being contiguous in nature, and then finally the enclave that's being created within the city of Port St. Joe and the one parcel we identified owned by St. Joe Company. Those are your legal arguments. I provided you the details and the purpose. Also, the procedural due process issues that have not been met. And finally, what I wanted to discuss with you under your indexes is 8, 9, and 10. There's a review of the current county projects and contributions to the industrial corridor by the county and the city. I've laid out for you each of the legal challenges that you'll present to the city commission and in your litigation. It's important that they also have the historical perspective, and that's where I think the commissioners, Mr. McKnight's joined us today so he can speak about it as well. Just in a brief overview of where you're at right now, I know historically, as you get ready to celebrate a 100-year anniversary this year in June, for the better part of that entire century, that has been your industrial center in Gulf County. You have, obviously the paper mill was there, the box plant, Premier Chemical, they're all not there anymore. I know this county commission has worked diligently for many years to try to bring that back, the industrial corridor. Presently, you have over 387 jobs at Eastern Shipbuilding. You currently, right now, at your workshop in early January, spoke about the airport, and we have a workshop on it tomorrow morning. We've been working, I think, for over 10 years on the floating dry dock, in obviously pushing that project forward. There's tons of economic development there, and when you talk about the urban nature of that area and being a legal argument before the court, all the things that you have done, all the things that you have planned, all the things that are going forward that you had envisioned for this area in cooperation with the city, that's your economic driver and your job growth for Gulf County. What I wanted to do is ask Mr. Jim, because he can say it better than anyone, is just come up and give you a brief overview in terms of what you've done there and what we plan going forward for a couple of minutes so that you can add some color to the picture of why this area and why you voted against to start this resolution process. So Jim, if you wouldn't mind.
Good morning. From an economic development standpoint, that's kind of what I do. The proposed project, it's just not consistent with what has existed there in the past and where we're going in the future. Historically, that Michigan Chemical opened in 1956, and later became Premier Chemical. Arizona Chemical opened across the street in 1956, is now owned by the Port Authority. MTI opened in the 80s, and all three of those facilities supported the paper mill and the ongoing operations that were going on there. That was the past use. That's almost 70 years it's been used as an industrial area. Currently, according to a study that Duke Energy paid to have done, that area is the #1 business site, economic development site for Gulf County, due in great part to the availability of the natural gas, water, electric already on the site. We've had a number of businesses interested in locating there, just not have been able to close the deal on those businesses. But I thought pertinent to that discussion, there was one guy, one company put in a proposal to how he might use the property, and it runs from, again, Eastern Shipbuilding out to what would be the airport. And I'm just copying this guy's stuff. I think I got enough copies to go around. Let's just see. And what this business had, again, they had taken this corridor here that we've been looking at, and again, what had historically happened, this was your paper mill, and these facilities up here, they supported that. And that's what it needs to occur in the future. This guy went as far as on his drawing that he had laid out an aerospace project. He was going to build a low draft boat development plant and all of that in here, and all that tied to the airport. You can also see he had an innovation center, aerospace thing, and so this was one guy that came in and studied our area, and actually was proposing things. We just couldn't work out anything with the property at that time. Unfortunately, at the time, the people that owned Premier Chemical at the time, they just didn't show too much interest in selling their properties. That project went away. The location of This is our industrial site. This is all we have in Gulf County. We don't have anything else to build businesses. It's now between Eastern and what will be the airport. You had a workshop a few weeks ago. Commissioner Pridgeon, suggested train facilities and things like that could be located out in that area. It makes sense to build from the airport back to the Eastern Shipbuilding and to have space to construct businesses that are similarly like. It is our industrial area. It places industry where it needs to be. It protects the rest of Gulf County from we don't need places to put big businesses anywhere else in the county because it can all be located there. It's not unsightly. It does nothing to the beautiful community we are and doesn't affect the tourist corridor and people traveling through. I think that we're poised to get $100 million more in investment in Eastern Shipbuilding and other businesses along there and the airport. And I just believe that we need to understand this is our industrial area. It's always been our industrial area. And to do something different there would be akin to taking and building a manufacturing plant on Cape Sandblast. Doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to put a manufacturing plant on Cape Sandblast because that's a residential area. This is Gulf County's only industrial area, and it just needs to be maintained as that. That's where we need to put our businesses. We need to put our money and put our interest. That would be my input. I just would encourage you to look carefully at changing the use of that property for something it's not meant to be. It's not a residential area, and it is an industrial area, and it's Gulf County's only industrial area. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Jim.
Thanks, sir.
Our commissioners, I appreciate Mr. Jim coming, giving you some background. I know you're all very aware of everything you're doing out there, as is Michael and Clay. And the 15 years I've watched you all work out there to try to continue to work with the city, create jobs and economic opportunities for private industry. What I want to do is just real quickly give you the conflict. I'm going to give you a summation, and then we'll hopefully have the commissioners and staff provide any comments, touch on any areas I may have missed, and then ideally we can have the city then respond by staff and their elected officials. The conflict of the nature, and as I indicated before, it comes down to this, and this is what the crux of the lawsuit will be. The city has violated 171 as its parcels sought through annexation are not contiguous under the clear definition. City of Port St. Joe has violated 171 and the parcels sought through annexation are not reasonably compact and do create an enclave. Under 171, compactness means concentration of a piece of property in a single area and precludes any action which would create an enclave. Further, an enclave means any unincorporated, improved, or developed area that is enclosed within and bounded on all sides by a single municipality, as I defined for you earlier. The City of Port St. Joe has violated 171 in the parcels sought through annexation do not meet the clear definitions for satisfying the purpose of the Florida statute. I indicated before to you to ensure sound urban development and accommodation to growth. As Jim indicated, and as I spoke to earlier, you have an industrial corridor, an industrial park. You have it surrounded by industrial and commercial operations. You have planned over $100+ million in projects from both the waterfront up to the airport. It is a long industrial road, and it has historically, for the better part of the past century, been industrial driver for this community, both the city and the county. The justification for initiating the process, that you as a county have a duty to ensure that this development be a sound urban development. The duty cannot be achieved without this resolution being, this conflict being resolved. Despite your multiple efforts by Gulf County to reach a resolution, they have moved forward on Ordinance 616. I've mentioned the procedural issues. They are issues that will have to be addressed through the litigation as well. Ideally, I wouldn't have to do them because it would invalidate their annexation, that they would go back and cure and remedy these due process issues that I highlighted earlier. We had originally proposed a date under the statute. When it didn't accomplish that, they wanted to move it forward, which we're doing, and I'm actually very thankful that we have this opportunity before they move to their March 4th date. We could have done it after, and then it has a 30-day window. As I told them on February 4th, and I'm telling you again today, for them to get to the 4th, have a second reading and possibly adopt this ordinance, it brings in all different parties to this issue. Right now, this is an issue between the county and the city. That's it. and ideally that with fully informed decision, they can step back from that. After March 4th adoption of 616, and they incorporate 113 acres into the city, every adjacent property owner has a vested interest. The public has an opportunity to challenge, as do you, which you've already started the process. You're the first body protecting the community of doing that. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Just real quickly in summation, that we have asked historically, like I said in the past, for this dialogue to happen before this proper process starts. I know you're seeking a cooperative spirit and a dialogue with the City Commission. That's what you had agreed to 5 years ago. We'd asked them to cease and desist with the procedures for the annexation. As I indicated, the failure to meet the statutory regulations, no reporting, no certified statements, no due process, no proper notice, no adjacent property owners impacted. I don't know if any of them are here today. I'd be surprised if they were, but there's the denial of their due process as well. As I indicated also earlier, there's nothing the city can't do that it can't fix right now. All they've done is voted to have a first reading, and then they instructed their attorney and their manager, city manager, to send us notice that they are proceeding with this. All of that, no problem with it, although it wasn't timely under the statute, but they haven't adopted the ordinance as it stands yet. Again, I just implore you, commissioners, you have many generations going forward of your investments, and I say this to the city as well. It's multi-generation investments in that sector for growth and development between what Jim talked about, the dry dock, the airport, the vocational training center. It is a bright new day, I guess, along the Gulf of America. I think you all spoke to that in the last 30 days, and we want to continue that effort. This would have a chilling effect on that, of placing the residential community in the middle of an industrial park, and that will be obviously an argument before the court when you talk about compactness and urban smart growth and smart planning. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Commissioner, I appreciate the opportunity to give you that summation.
Thank you, sir. All right, commissioners, I got any questions for Mr. Novak? No questions? All right, Mr. Hammond, you got anything you want to add?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
I'm
yes, sir.
sorry.
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
So, Jim, this is the first time I've seen this advanced innovation complex that we passed out. And who did this? Who?
This was just a company that was actually
Co-
interested in locating here.
Mr. McKnight, come on up to the microphones. We can make sure we got it.
There was a company that was actually interested in locating here several years ago, and I just pulled it out because it was interesting how they had laid out, and they'd already had the airport on there, and an idea of an innovation center, and tying that to Eastern Shipbuilding, and obviously the floating dry dock, which we're talking about. So I just thought it was just a map that might be of interest to you. It's nothing that's in the works now. It's
Okay.
a past project that never
Yeah,
realized.
I know what they've done over in Bay County with the innovation, the aerospace. I don't know if that was him that went over there, but this is something that was going to be in conflict with that. I don't know.
No. Again, this is just, it was just a
Okay.
map to show you the idea of using that corridor
I got you.
along the canal between Industrial Road and the canal. And more than likely, where ought to be training, in terms of your conversations would be training programs or that type of facility located in that same area.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Good. All right, go ahead, Mr. Hammond.
Just quickly, I mean, our usual arguments with annexation with the city's density. This is not a situation of density now. The county has been dropping their density. The city's got much higher density, and that's a draw for developers to go into the city typically. This is all about land use, and it's all about killing future light industrial, because it is the perfect place. It is on the industrial road, and if you look at the map, I think it just adds to the point that you're right next to a wastewater treatment plant, a coal plant, an abandoned landfill that we're still monitoring. That's still a problem. A transfer station across the street, all of the city three-phased industrial park across the way, city spray fields across the canal. So this is not a place to put residential. And again, if once you do, you kill your future industry. So that's our argument today. It's not density this time.
All right, thanks, sir. All right, commissioners, I got anything?
Yeah, I guess since I'm new, can we kind of backtrack how this started? I mean, did the developer start with us, end with us? I mean, tell us how that went.
Commissioner, I wish we could give that information to you.
I mean, obviously, we're in a thing, look, we do not need to go to court, I mean, or whatever this takes. We need to work together. It's a colossal waste of time to do that. My thinking is, folks, is we need to look at the big picture of what the city and the county is doing going forward. We need to sit at the table, and if it means bringing a third party in to tell us what does it look like 10 years from now in your community based on what you want, we both want, for good growth, and then go from there. I don't like the fact that any developer is going to come in here and put a timeline on you and us. That's just not good. That's not a way of work, in my opinion. It's not fair to the citizens for us to sit up here and do this when we can be talking about water, we can talk about sewer. We got a lot of things to talk about. And this is something we could be talking about it as well. So that was where I said, hey, where do we start with this down this road? And I know that I want to go back to what Jeremy said about when we met on the 28th, and let's clarify that. Our thoughts is, hey, let's get with them, go ahead and plan WeWalk, let's get St. Joe in here, let's pick their brain a little bit about this, and maybe going forward, am I wrong about that? Isn't that kind of what we wanted to do before we ever got here? And because you probably got some things that you want to tell us, and that's what we want to hear today too. But let's start with how we got here, and then look at maybe there might be a resolution in the future where we can sit down, not just this one, because this may be just one of 5 that come up. People may hear this and say, oh, we got that one. Guess what? There's 4 more right behind them or something. And that's why I say if we come up with something now between us going forward, I think that's what the citizens want. I know that's what I would like. And board members, please weigh in there on that. Because that's where we came from on the 28th when we were talking. That's what we were talking about.
Yeah, so just like Commissioner Pridgeon said, so our idea was to, we wanted to sit down with both cities and see how could we, as a county, help you, and what are some things we could have done. But I think what happened was this kind of came up, and it kind of threw I guess we'll say a wrench into what we want to talk about, because we also want to talk about different things. We wanted to see how could we do in reference to roads. In reference to things in the city that myself and Commissioner McCrone, which is the city is part of our area, what could we do to help the city? And but then we had this issue with this annexation, and I think that from what we're hearing is that the only thing they wanted to discuss today was just this, but we are planning to have another workshop where we can see what can we do to help. We had a great workshop with the city of WeWalk Hitchcock, and they told us, they laid out everything that they asked from the county, and we told them what we will be able to help them with. So going forward, I think we're dealing with this issue first, but we do want to have another workshop so we can work together to see what can we do as a county to help the city of Port St. Joe. So that was the reason for Commissioner Pridgeon's recommendation. But now we're here with the annexation issue, so we got to try to hopefully nip this in the bud.
Let me say this, Mr. Chairman, and I thought, I think we were in a good place. I know the cooperation on 10th Street was a great project, big project that between the city and county was completed, and I'm proud of that. Our Public Works and the city's crew worked great together, and I want to see us get past this. I've served on the city board, and I love Port St. Joe. I'll be the first to tell you. And I want to see us get past this. But at the end of the day, I think and I've always been a proponent of diversifying our economy and looking down the road for our kids and grandkids, which I have both in Gulf County. And I think we're making a critical mistake if we decide to put residential in the middle of this area. That we've always been a light industrial, now commercial type zone that we could have that would, I think, would flourish now, especially with what's coming online with President Trump and what we see ahead possibly. And I hope, as both boards, that we can work together and get past this and work in cooperation.
And other commissioners got anything? All right, Mr. Novak?
No, sir, if you've heard from your staff and each of the commissioners, I would encourage you to turn it over to the mayor and the manager, commissioners and staff, sir.
All right, thanks, sir. All right, Mayor?
Let me say, clear a little something up about this workshop that you guys talked about and want to sit down with the city and communicate with us. That only happened, and we only heard about it after we decided to go ahead with this annexation. And so we've been open to communication for a long, long time. Communication works both ways, though. And so we're not opposed to a workshop at all, but we only heard about, let's all get together and try to talk about mutual issues till after we submitted our annexation request. So I'm hoping that that wasn't a stimulus to bring you guys on board to let's sit down and try to talk about the future. Right now, you know, we got this piece of property. It's been sitting there idle for 25 years. Someone came to the city with an opportunity to make something happen on this dormant piece of property that's been sitting there for 25 years. So we said, it looked good. Anything that happens on something that large, we'll have to have a large scale plan amendment with the state. And something that big, it's gonna innovate into other things probably before the final determination of what's gonna be there. It could go through a lot of different processes. So we said, you know, that looked good. It's not gonna hurt anybody, and it'll help a lot of everybody, for that matter, county and the city. This parcel, if you look at a city map, it's a simple map, not quite complicated as we have up here, a city map, that's the only large parcel left in the city limits that's not in the city limits, but is surrounded by city. Every parcel around there is listed on the Gulf County Property Appraiser website as being in the city of Port St. Joe. Now, that's a nice big, you know, piece right there that would consolidate and I would guess, lack of a better word, square up the city limits. Okay, and so that's, you know, we talk about industry. Our industry in South Gulf County is tourism. We're not going to ever have another smokestack in South Gulf County. I think we've just got to come to the realization that that's not going to happen. Everybody wants to diversify their economy. We can diversify the county's economy, but South Gulf County is tourism. I mean, look, guys, I'd love for it to go back to the good old days. I've been here 78 years. That'd be great. But I have come to the realization that this is what it is, and that's what we're going to have. And so the easiest way to avoid everything that's been said so far is to drop your opposition to a simple annexation and move on. Randy said it best. He said, we've got a lot of other things we could be doing, a lot more important things that we could be doing. We've got a lot of projects. You guys got future projects. You're just going ahead with a zoning change on 3,300 acres to maybe put an airport in that area that's been described while we've been sitting here. And so I think the easiest way to do it is just drop it. There's no reason. You're not going to have any industry, okay? Mr. McKnight stood in front of Corey Simon and Representative Schoaf and said the same thing. He said, we're 70 miles from the interstate. We're not gonna get folks to come down here and open up a big plant in this area, because we're too far. It's just, the realization is not there. So what this gentleman does with this property, will have to come before the city. If it gets annexed, it'll have to go to a planning board. It's a reasonable, I mean, of course, what he laid out is very aggressive, no doubt. And it'll be a lot of money. Of course, it'll bring jobs to while it's being developed. And so that's our, you know, regardless of we didn't do this and we didn't do that with statute so-and-so and all that stuff, that's irregardless of all that. We wouldn't even be here talking about all those things if you guys would just realize that we're trying to help. That's what we're trying to do. And I don't think we'd be in opposition to things that you'd bring up to help your constituents. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to help our constituents. We're trying to consolidate our city limits and put it where we're not gerrymandering something all the way out the highway like was done 15, 20 years ago. And but that's all I can think to say right this particular minute.
Mr. Chairman, let me respond to
Yes,
that.
yes.
And Mayor, we have no illusions about, and I don't want to drive a false narrative that we want smokestacks and go back to heavy industrial. That is just not true, and you know that. Our tourism is critical to Gulf County, but in diversification, one thing that we do have that we have access to is the water, and a floating dry dock type of scenario with businesses tied to that would benefit the whole county as a whole to diversify the economy. But to drive a narrative of going back to smokestacks is just not true. Nobody here believes that for a minute. But if you take and put a residential area, and I can't believe that we would even be considered putting a residential houses on a site that was a chemical plant for 70 years. You know, I question, has even an environmental study been done on that area, you know? And is my question, and anybody else want to?
That's the developers, we'll say that's the developer's prerogative. If he sees an opportunity to make a little money, then that would be, he would have to deal with that. But I want to talk about economic too. I mean, and this is all kind of tied in to economic development, which we've talked about the dry dock, we talk about the blimp, we talk about all these things, which are wonderful, but it's not going to drive the economy of the city of St. Joe or the county by bringing all these jobs in here, taxing our infrastructure, and we have nowhere for them to stay. That's what will drive the economy, keeping these people here. We have a Mardi Gras parade going to Panama City every day at 5 o'clock, folks leaving Eastern Shipbuilding. And we got to find somewhere, and I sat down with Jim McKnight a week or so ago, and we talked about just that problem. He gives this 4-time multiplier about how salaries are multiplied 4 times by someone in our county. But I think he and I both agreed that that's only if they live here. So we can talk about all these other wonderful things, and they do sound wonderful. It does sound like it diversifies our economy, but it's not going to help our economy unless we have places for them to live.
Let me respond to that, Mayor. I mean, that does sound good, But if you build condos and a marina out there, who in this county gonna be able to afford it?
What do you mean?
How much do you think? So you build a marina, because I heard that it was, they planning on building a marina and building condos. Am I right or am I wrong?
That's what I saw, the original plan that was put before us, correct.
So an average school teacher not gonna be able to afford a condo with a marina.
That's not what he's building it for anyway, Mr. Chairman.
Well, you
It's
just,
not.
but you were just saying that, I mean, if you build it, people gotta have a place to live, so who's gonna be able to afford it?
Well, like most of them here now, I'm afraid we are second homes, second, third homes, and so forth. But yeah, I know what we got to have, and we all know that. But it's just we're putting the cart before the horse, pushing all this, getting jobs in here, and they don't live here. They don't spend their money here. They don't pay property taxes. And it's taxing our infrastructure, which
I agree.
we're having to pay for. So that's might be getting into the weeds on this whole subject, but we think if you'd allow that just to be annexed, we don't have to go to court. Nobody wants to go to court. And it's not going to be our fault if we have to go to court. This is a two-way street. We're represented by the county, we're represented by the city.
Yes, sir. Go.
Let me go back to something you said about the work in the workshop and didn't hear about it till after this. I want to assure you, I had no idea about this whole project when we started talking about working with both our city municipalities. It was a goal of mine back in November. It just came up when we had our workshop, because that's what we're trying to do, is set how we're going to do our way of work going forward. This came up and we all agreed, hey, we need to get with them, schedule some things. This started way before that. Then we said we need to go ahead and get it on the fact that two of our commissioners in the cities, and both Wheeler Hitchcock as well, they needed work projects done on their roads. So we needed to look at bonding. So we said, let's move the schedule up. We asked our administrator, Michael, we asked you to move these meetings up for us. Okay, so that's where that came from. So it had nothing to do anything with this annexation. Nothing. I mean, we hear about it when it was in the paper, and I'm telling you this. That's it.
First time we heard about it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we were trying. That's a normal scheduling thing. We had ours decide this is what we're going to do, because it hadn't been done in a while, my understanding, for the full boards, which is something we want to do all the time now. Go forward. We talked about, I think, every quarter or something, Jack, or twice a year. Spike, did we say about twice a year with Wheel on St. Joe, or?
I don't remember that date.
But it was, we talked about doing it more, working these things out. You said something that really caught my eye. The developer making money. Now that's where I said that doesn't drive anything that I want to make a decision on. I do not want to sit here and say that the developer's money is going to make me make a decision on an annexation or whether we go to court. You bought a piece of property and it was industrial, correct? Whoever the person is bought it. It was an industrial piece of property. You paid less for that piece of property because it was industrial. Now you're saying, well, if I can get these boards to bend these rules or change these rules or change the way it's zoned, now I can triple my money at the expense of what we may try to do in the future in 20 years from now. So I do have a definite problem with that. Workforce housing, 20 years ago, they had a committee from Gulf County. They had 20 or 30 individuals, and I got a copy of the study that they'd done 20 years ago talking about these things. These are the same things they were talking about 20 years ago, folks. It's right after the mill had gone. You know what I mean? It had gone away. What are we going to do for the future? One of the key topics that all 20 agreed to, and this was done by a professional he came in and did a workshop with them. One of the things they talked about was diversification of your economy. They knew it was going to be a tourism, but diversification was important back then, and it's important now. And the reason I say that is because what happens if we have a storm? We go back, we've had a storm, we know what happens after that. We make some poor choices sometimes after that. We have an oil spill, we have something. These things cause our economy to change, and we can't always depend on tourism. So, yeah, it is. It's driving us. I'm not naive. We know it is. It's driving our economy right now, and that's fine. And we do know that a lot of our workers are getting on that road going over there. That's something we as a county commission and we've got to work on that. We've got to find a way to say, hey, Eastern Shipbuilding, we need to incentivize people living here getting these jobs. What's our unemployment, 2.8 right now? One of the lowest.
We've been third lowest in the state for months.
For months. I mean, but we don't know what happens. Maybe we start getting some of these houses they're kind of getting overbuilt. I think we're going to see some things in the next 2 or 3 years where they're building out in the Windmark area, and these houses are sitting open right now. Someone's going to have to give. And it may be some of these people can afford to live there. Right now, if you go in Windmark North, half the people that are working doing Mexico Beach, their renourishment, they're all staying there. They were doing monthly rentals right now. Some of these things are going to take care of themselves. I really do think that, folks. But to say that we're here because this good developer is going to come and make money, I'm not on board with that. Everybody knows that. I think I've been clear on that one.
Randy, let me counter that just a little bit. And it wasn't all, I mean, anybody that buys a piece of property gonna try to develop it and so they can make some money off of it. The point I want to make is take $1 million piece of property and turn it into $100 million piece of property will help the county and it will help the city. So you see what I'm talking about? Whatever. It's been sitting there, we're just Avalorem, let's just take 100% Avalorem revenue off that piece of dirt right now, and whatever it is, it will be improved. Improved property increases Avalorem revenue, okay? And that helps both of us. So that's my point.
And I understand about Avalorem taxes. Yeah. And I understand when you do that, you're bringing people, probably these people are not going to be living here, so that is something that you're talking about. But let's talk about infrastructure. And maybe this is a good project 4 or 5 years down the road. Who knows? But for right now, we had a situation where a water main break. It was just a fluke thing, and it knocked out 4 of our communities. And those are things we've got to work on with them. We talked about paid fire departments. I know y'all are trying to go there, and I understand that. We're trying to help get there. But I thought these were 45, the big Viking boats coming in here and all. They're coming to Port St. Joe? I mean, that's not, I don't understand that. I don't know, is a person here that's doing this? I mean, I asked Jeremy, I asked you, did he ever meet with us? Or, I've never seen him. I'd like to hear what he had.
Well, it may, like I said, any large project could evolve over the years. Now, whether that marina happens or not, there's no guarantee of that. All we're trying to do is get a piece of property into the city that needs to be into the city. And
so if he doesn't, Rex, if he doesn't develop it and he sells it, so he did his part, he bought it at this price, he got it annexed in, got it where he can get a density rating of 20, he flips this thing and makes money on it. What do we
get the increased property value of that? That's what we get just for that. And then the next guy's going to turn it into something, and the next guy will do something else. So that's just the evolution of how things work.
Well, and I got that, but this was in the industrial. So I mean, we're not going at it. We're fleshing this thing out. This was in the industrial side. This was an industrial piece of land, and it was made that way, or it was when the planners set up Gulf County. It was done. So that's where the industry is going to be.
I don't know how that was. I have no idea.
Okay.
Yep. You got something?
Yes, sir. I'll talk a little bit. I just wanted to say there's, and to respond to Mr. Rex, all due respect, I understand where you're coming from on the residential side of things, but at what sacrifice are we giving that at? The only industrial piece of property currently that we have on the canal in the county is this piece of property.
Well, that's not, it is presently, but aren't you guys annexing 3,300?
Yes, sir.
All the other property?
And globally,
every bit of that.
From a macro level, we're trying to secure the property with the most potential in Gulf County. That's what our requirements and our oaths say we should do And that's what we're all trying to do up here, in my opinion. I don't think that y'all are trying to do anything differently. I understand your point of view, and there's two sides of the story. However, this is the area with the most potential. I'm going to say it 100 times, hopefully over the next 10 years. But this is the place that we have the most opportunity to gain for future citizens of Gulf County. And my personal goal is to make sure that our kids that we all have can stay here and work. It's a simple goal. In doing that, we're going to sacrifice 113 acres of industrial property. And I don't even know what's going there. I don't know any environmental. I don't know any phase one. I haven't seen a feasibility study. We haven't seen anything, so we're kind of in the dark, or I am in the dark. I think all five of us would actually agree to that. But we really don't know what the plans are. We haven't been afforded the opportunity to see anything at this point. So there's a big misnomer there that we are really in the dark. And environmental's a big deal along the canal, and what was there prior to for the last 60, 70 years.
Well, you have to do the same study on the 3,300.
The 3,300's in pine trees.
Right, but when it's annexed into industry, we have to do all the.
Procedurally, yes, sir, we'll have to do the same thing. Procedurally, we'll have to do the same
That's
thing.
what I thought. I appreciate it.
I'm good for now, yes, sir.
Hey, Mr. Chairman? Yes. If I can add one thing back when I was talking about the criteria, the city, and I think Commissioner Husband had a very good point, as did Commissioner Pridgeon. What assurances are being provided? As you said, there's a ton of unanswered questions. And so when I asked them before at the podium, I don't know that those answers are all there. I don't know that the input's all there. But legally, to create an enclave or to have sound urban development, those are two criteria that the law and the court will look to. And so I go back to that issue. You have 113-acre tract in the middle of the industrial corridor in Gulf County. There's no sound urban development. It's not connected to any other residential. You will have a residential community as is proposed, because if that's what's being told to you today, I don't know that either. So when I go in front of the judge, I won't know what's going to be there. And I guess the city hasn't asked that question or has no assurances. And again, the other one is the enclave. There's the elephant in the room. What is going to be done about that property, a county property directly behind this subject parcel? And in the statute for voluntary annexations, again, I'll read it. It's just one sentence. Land shall not be annexed through voluntary annexation when such annexation results in the creation of enclaves. And so if that's a legal dispute between all the parties, the landowner, the city, the county, it has to be answered. But again, there's so many unanswered questions. The reason that you all, as you said, Commissioner Pridgeon, you met the second week of January in a workshop in Honeyville. You all talked about this issue. The very next time you got together with the staff to schedule these workshops was 2 weeks later. In that 2-week period, there was a meeting and a letter that came to the county to say, hey, by the way, you're on the clock. We're going to have our second reading. We're going to annex in 113 acres. You had nothing. You had no opportunity to respond or set a date. So I think that needs to be stated that you had a 14-day period in which you had to respond to this, and that's why you're here today. But again, I would ask those same questions that you all are asking. If you had them, you might be able to flesh this out some more for that legal dispute, sir.
All right, thanks, sir. All right. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
For me, I think we got to start with what do we agree on? And let me say, based on Commissioner McCrone's statement about 10th Street, amazing job. The city would not have been able to accomplish that task without the county. So I hate that we're sitting here once again disputing or having a conflict, but I think we will get past this like we've gotten past the other issues. But the one thing we all agree on is we want to improve both the city and the county. And as a city commissioner, and I know Commissioner McCrone will relate, he's setting the city side. I feel like my role as a city commissioner is to listen to the people that live in the city and the county. We're all using the same ball fields. Kids are playing 10th Street, more from the county than the city probably. But we have to work together to improve services water, sewer, and roads. We need to strive to do things that helps the people that live here, not the ones that come for the weekend, not the ones that come and, stay. I was in St. Pete the other day, this weekend. One of the people that works with my daughter said, "Oh, you're from St. Joe," and said the one thing that we hear, everyone in this room has heard it. "I've been going to St. Joe for, all these years." Well, a lot of those people, me included, end up living here. So when you bring people here or they travel here, however they got here, either on a plane with another 10,000 people, or they just came because their family vacationed here. I used to come here and skip school and go surfing on the Cape. That's what I did. That's all I knew about St. Joe. Well, as the city, we have to do the things that we think will help us and the people that live in the city financially. We had a water study done several years ago, right about the time I started, I guess. And the study came back and said, you need to increase your water rates 3%. And if I misquote, correct me, Jim, but I believe it was 3% every year. We never increased them. Why? Because of growth in the city. That's what helped us hold the line on what we charge our people for water and sewer. It's all tied together. We've also been able, because of growth, to pave some roads. We spent, close to $5 million on Long Avenue. It's still not done. It still needs some work. But we did those things because of one fact: how much money we have to spend. So when a project like this comes, or opportunity of this type of project comes about, and we have an opportunity to bring it into the city, it's not a real difficult decision for me as a city commissioner. Do I like the changes? I don't like all of them. I've been here 30 plus years. Some of y'all have been here for generations. And I remember how years ago the city of Apalachicola was faced a lot of the same problems. You had one group that says, we're going to stop tourism. We're going to focus on the people that work and live in Franklin County. That train has left the station. For Franklin County, where are they now? It's a tourist town. We lost the industries that paid good and supported people, and you didn't have to just do tourism. But we don't have that anymore. I don't believe we will ever have it. And the reason that I believe that is just what the mayor said. It's the distance from I-10 and the fact we no longer have the railroad. That's huge. Developers look at this area and they move on. I was running the list of possible industrial projects for the last 20 years, and we're just not getting those opportunities. The people come, they look at it, and for whatever reason, they move on. And that's what we're faced with. So when we have an opportunity that both financially will improve the county, because the county would still get every penny of their property tax from this. The only thing they'd lose, I think, is a little bit of money on a fire tax. That's it. So you have an opportunity to help the county grow financially as well as the city. And we need those things to hold the line on increasing what it costs to live in the city. And that's how I look at it. If I'm missing something, someone please bring it to my attention.
Just real quick, Mr. Novak, I appreciate you coming to our meeting on the 4th. My idea was to have a workshop to iron a lot of things out that we've all been discussing and you guys have been helping with, such as the ballpark. But I'm just going to go ahead and lay a lot of the things out that you guys and us are working together to do.
other than what we're here to talk about today. But Washington Rec Gym, $500,000 grant, plus or minus, that you guys are applying for us for one of our facilities to start work there here in the near future. Splash Pad, Core Park, that you guys are going to assist us with financially. Restrooms at Core Park that you guys have obligated that you're going to assist us with, that we have to build that splash pad. But I did want to ask Mr. Hammond or Mr. Cawthorn, what do you think the monetary amount was to assist us with 10th Street ballpark, just an estimate?
Mark would know, I'm proud of our guys, but I would say, turn it back the other way. How much did y'all pay the contractor to do that work, that small amount of work versus what we paid? So I'd say $500,000, but I mean, I don't know what the time was. I never dreamed our guys could work that good, that fast on that project.
Right.
And I'm pleased that, the city was right there the whole time. So, but our guys did work that we didn't have to hire a contractor to do that was yeoman's work, so. Mark?
Yeah, and I believe it, we did pay the contractor somewhere around $150,000, somewhere in there, that neighborhood.
I started calculating it, and it was somewhere, I stopped because we weren't gonna charge for it, so it was like, whatever. I'd say between 250, 300, 350-ish.
Yeah.
250, 350.
So, I mean, that shows us working together, and how we don't need to get down the wrong path again. And I appreciate that. I really do. And there's, one huge roads, of course, infrastructure. But, I mean, we just got an estimate recently from our contractor, engineer, on closing our lagoon, which is going to cost us in the neighborhood of $80 to $100 million. So we're looking at that we're going to have to do that. DEP is going to that's going to make it a requirement. So there's a lot of things on the table that we need to discuss, and I wish we could have just workshopped this as suggested by Mr. Novak, but the consensus of the board was to move forward with the conflict resolution. But thank you guys for your help and future help.
Let me just add this. No matter, I mean, hopefully, like I said, we'll come to some kind of conflict resolution in reference to this issue. And like I said, we have been working well together, and there's other projects out there that we're gonna have to continue to work well together to get accomplished. So, like I say, we need you guys, and we know you guys. You need us because, like I say, me and Mr. McCrone's district is the city, part of the city, and mine is the entire city. So any project that we can assist in or help in, I've always been on board with, especially moving forward, especially because when Commissioner Pridgeon brought up the workshop, the first thing I had already told them was roads. There are several roads that need to be paid in the city, and especially in Northport St. Joe. We need to get those roads done. But in order to get those things accomplished, we're gonna have to. And there's no other way around. We got to work together because we need your dollars, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna need our dollars. So, like I said, hopefully we'll come to some kind of conflict resolution so we can. But with that being said, once this is over with, and it's over and done, even if we agree or disagree, we still got to work together regardless going forward. I mean, so there's no bad feelings if we lose or you guys win. We still got to work together regardless. So there's no wearing feelings on fingertips. What happened is it's over with, and then we got to come back together to the drawing board and say, hey, how we're gonna move this thing forward, going forward for the city of Port St. John, for Gulf County.
Can I just add one thing? What I would love to see both boards do, where we don't always come to this position, because it's a philosophical difference. The county's philosophy is this is industrial, it needs to remain industrial. It's not going to be smokestacks, but it is going to be machinery or something to do with airport or floating dry dock or something. And the first house you build in it, that screws all that up. And the other part is every developer's going to want to build houses because that's the highest and best use for all this waterfront property. They'll tear down the businesses, they'll tear down the restaurants, they'll do whatever they want to build houses because, I mean, that's where the value is. I'm certainly not arguing that. My argument is you don't put a bar next to a church. You don't put a strip club next to a church. You don't put a residential development next to a sewer plant and an industrial area with, you know, all the things, a landfill. If we could get together, and because the developers always play us off each other, the county's reducing density. The county's has maximum of 4. They just reduced it on any land use change to 2 units an acre. I mean, that's what our residents tell us they want, less density, not more density. The city's 7 to 40. They will always play this game of the county says no, we'll go to the city and we want whatever. And we can't sell our future out for water taps and land use because at some juncture, we will have to we got to have some worker bees. We have a crisis with the fire departments. Y'all have a crisis with the fire departments because all of our worker bees have got old and we don't have any working class folks to do those jobs anymore. That's just not. And the working class that we do have live in Wewall or White City or Overstreet or Panama City or Franklin County or even Calhoun County. And it's going to be the same with the city workforce, the same with the county workforce. We've got to have some light industry. If we don't, we're going to be a bunch of old folks that you know, we'll be paying somebody $100,000 a year for firefighters because we won't have anybody working. And this is the only place for it to be. Again, this is not fighting over density. This is fighting over the land use change, but density is the other issue. And that's what, you know, the last time we come together, we agreed. The city capped the density at what the county had, and I mean, and everybody, you know, the county's not opposed to the city making money. The county is opposed to the city's vision sometimes about density, and especially on this one for land use.
Let me ask you this. I kind of floated it out there. I didn't get a response back, but are y'all amenable to, I mean, I don't see that the developer needs to set our pace. I know that you have a pace you have to follow to get whatever, but that doesn't mean you have to do it that way. We don't have to be that quick about it. Would y'all be amenable to possibly having, I'm just throwing this out there, everybody else got to vote on it, maybe a consultant come in and look at not just this project, but let's get the bang for the buck and say, hey, what is the annexation process? I mean, going forward, what needs to be in the city, what needs to be in the county? But simplistically, what needs to be in there, what needs to be in that? What makes good sense? We're seeing it one way, you're seeing it one way. Sometimes a third party, this mutually agreed upon, may come up with some ideas to make the best for all of us. Anybody got thoughts on that? Maybe a third party slowing this down and saying, let's bring in a consultant? Is that thoughts?
I mean, I don't want to say I agree with you, Commissioner Pridgeon, because if you look at a city future land use map, it's surrounded by purple. This parcel is. Mm-hmm. If you look at what the county's trying to do with the 3,300 acres, it's surrounded by industrial. So, I mean, it's supposed to be industrial. And to me, I don't want to pay somebody to tell us that. You know, that's the thing. A consultant's going to cost the city, it's going to cost the county, and the end result is going to be should be industrial, right? In my opinion.
I got you.
But I mean, if there was, the problem is, Commissioner Bridgen, we don't know. We haven't seen anything. We don't know anything, and it's hard to have a resolution to anything when you don't know.
Yeah, I got that, absolutely. I was just thinking for the future. I mean, because there's more. Is Doug here? Doug, there are probably more parcels out there that could come up down the road, right? That are similar to this. Not this one, probably not industrial, but maybe an agricultural and stuff. I mean, you've dealt with them before.
Come on up to the microphone, Mr. Doug.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot this morning, but you deal with it every day, so.
You're referring to properties that could be annexed in?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, the majority, this one is just surrounded by the city, but it is right in the middle of what we consider to be our industrial corridor, and we're actually moving forward this month, as you guys will have presented to you next week, with changing the land use from agricultural to industrial to try to secure and to stop this type of thing from happening. As far as, moving residential areas into what we consider the industrial corridor.
Okay. All right, I was just, I didn't know, thank you.
I mean, we have one other piece of property, the diamond-shaped piece of property that's right in the middle that we went through last year, a couple years ago, of them trying to put residential housing in there and amidst that. And the county was not for that and basically turned them down. If you'll remember, Mr. McCrone was involved in that, just for this same exact reason. It's all about land use and not wanting to disturb that industrial corridor with residential property, because as Mr. Hammond alluded to, once you put one residential house in there, then you've killed any potential for anything.
Okay, and then I guess Desiree if you're going this way, left, Desiree's going to back up to everything we have that's not residential already, pretty much, right? And that's agriculture. They're not changing, so.
Right.
Except the spray field on the opposite side.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Doug.
Any other county, city officials?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Go.
First of all, I'd like to say that I appreciate everything that the county and the city has come together to do within the last few years. I think that it's important that we also look at and understand how constituents feel about certain situations. And I think that with this, all we're trying to do is get it annexed into the city. Piggybacking off the mayor, it'll bring in a lot of income as far as taps or whatever. But I would like to say that we don't know what the developer's going to do. Things change, Right now, my mind is set on, what will help us? Where can we generate income from within the city? Because there's a lot of work that needs to be done, not only within the county, but especially the Northport St. Joe corridor. So right now, my mind is focusing on what can I do to bring more income into the city and what our constituents think. So I think it's important for us to really, really think about how we're going to, how this is going to impact us, and that's where I'm at with it right now.
All right. Oh, Jack, no. All right, anyone else from the city?
Doug, you brought up a few good points. I think with the main reason for this meeting today, if I'm not wrong, was this was a conflict of interest that deals with just annexation, correct? So with that going forward, I mean, from the annexation standpoint, I think it's a good move for the city of Port St. Joe and our constituents. Now going forward with how this land would be developed, I think we've already discussed that. There's a lot of steps you have to go through. State, county, city, everything, to determine what that becomes. Now, it may be that even though it's annexed into the city and you have soil tests done and the different things that y'all have all brought up, it could be that it's determined that it's best fit for industrial. And then that property owner would then have that as industrial to then maybe work with you guys to continue y'all's vision of light industrial type work. But I think today, my biggest thing was I thought, coming in here just to ask for annexation. All these other ideas are super ideas going forward. I think we have to start finding a way to communicate with one another to see what's best for all of our constituents. Because when we say Port St. Joe, I'm also a Gulf Countyan. We're not two different entities. It's just that the city sits in Gulf County, and Weewahitchka sits in Gulf County. The county represents everybody within that county. And we all have to work together going forward. And I look forward to working with you guys in the future.
Jack, you want to ask your question?
Yes, sir. So procedurally, we've talked about that a lot, and this is the first time I've ever done this, Mr. Chairman, so I just want to ask a dumb question. How do we agree on something? We've talked about a lot of things, and to me, I just want to see, I mean, we're here for a conflict resolution, and let's try to resolve. Do we, if I may ask the attorney, do we offer things to the city, or the city offer things to us? Because so far, neither party has moved.
Yeah, I'd agree, Commissioner. I personally don't see a meeting of the minds, and we've heard from both commissions. Today was an opportunity for you at both sides to express themselves. It's a non-voting meeting. It is a conflict resolution of the statute, so there's no public comment. There's no voting of the boards. You both go back to your respective meetings. You have one next week. They have one on March 4th. And you all take appropriate actions. You've met your statutory requirement. You've done what the statute and the law requires you to do, and now the city can do what they choose to do. They'll have their second reading that they've advertised, and they can vote to move forward, or they can vote to ask more questions, like the 30 questions you all asked today, to fill in those blanks so that they have assurances, or that they have some plan, or they have some benchmarks so that they know before they take on 113 acres and then figure it out, that they ask those. There's nothing that compels them to have to adopt an ordinance 616 on March 4th. They've advertised it. The law gives them the ability after 2 readings to adopt it. And then that gives us the opportunity within 30 days afterward to file a writ of certiorari and move forward in circuit court. And there's appeal processes. I'm not going to bore the public with it, but I would tell you all that not only do we have that opportunity in the 30 days following March 4th, anyone in the public that feels aggrieved by this does as well. Adjacent property owners, the industrial park, private landowners, the enclave that's created behind it, all those folks come back into this picture, and now they have actionable rights. So this has been in warp speed. I think you all spoke about it today. It's a fast car going towards a cliff. It started on 21st of January. Unbeknownst to you, you've responded to it in the last 3 weeks, and this is the county and the city have said it very well. Everyone's trying to work together on this, but they're on a short window of time. I mean, it's a fast clock. And it's all precipitated by those readings. So if there's a step back and try to figure this out, you certainly can encourage them to do that. But the clock has started, and that's why you did the resolution on the 28th. That's why we're here today on the 18th. That's why hopefully on the 4th they can step back and say, there's a lot of good questions that we don't have answers to. And truthfully, I'd ask you, if we were here on a PDRB recommendation, my question on potential litigation would be to the 5 of you. They have counsel, they can ask the question. What is the urgency? What is your 5 urgency to get us to this next point? Whatever the land use change was from ag to industrial to 3,300, if you don't have all the pieces to the puzzle, you don't have assurances of what's going to happen in the next, what is your rush to adopt this ordinance? So that's not for us to decide. That's for them to decide on the 4th. And then you all will come back and have to make a decision. In the next 30 days, have a special meeting, instruct me and the administration to move forward and file that writ. But that's the process. And like I said, right now, we, by law, being the county, can start this process early. But a lot of other people come into the picture after March 4th. And like I said, there's a lot of blanks in the question sheets that y'all have.
So one question,
Yeah.
can I ask the city a question?
Yeah, I need to ask one too, if I can, yeah.
So has the city thought about the developer suing the city if this doesn't go through? I mean, you're putting yourself, and to me, the city's kind of putting themselves out there. The developer's going to be delayed if this doesn't go through. He's going to be delayed. To me, you ought to kind of open yourselves up to possible litigation from the source almost.
Or he could sue the county.
Sure.
Right now, it's county.
Right. He's probably.
So I think if he's going to sue anybody.
Well, he hasn't asked the county for anything. He hasn't asked the county for anything.
Yeah, I understand your thinking, but you have to include yourself in the same thought process.
Sure.
Commissioner Husband, you brought up a good point. Let's just talk about resolution. And I don't believe we could be sued on this portion of it, but say we come to a resolution and the county allows the the annexation to go through, but, and on the other side, we only allow an industrial use for that parcel. So I don't believe we could be sued at that point. That would be some resolution, I would say.
Brett, that's something, I think the contention is whether it's going to be used as residential. I don't think myself, I'm not speaking for Commissioner Quinn, but I don't think the annexation is a problem, but the potential use of the property, I would never agree to residential, and that's my contention. It's not necessarily the annexation. So if there was a stipulation in there that, you know, that we would keep it as light industrial, whatever, you know, that type of, I think that's something that we could maybe move on. But
Let's talk about the March 4th for a minute that Jeremy's been talking about, and if the city goes through with a vote to move forward, then he talked about you guys have a special meeting after that, and at that time, once again, I'll say that you guys could vote not to move forward and not to contest it. So that once again, that's an option also.
Yeah, I just echo what Commissioner McCrone said. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. Commissioner Quinn.
I don't think we have a problem with, if you don't annex it for industrial and light industrial, I don't think it's no issue.
Yeah.
The issue is they're putting a residential area in, right in the middle of an industrial
And
area.
because if we do bring something in there, it is shared revenue then. If it's industrial, it'll be shared revenue with the city as well. So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's nothing wrong with it.
I would not want to tie the city's hands for options on a piece of property that might do us all a lot of good. And the developer, you know, the developer bought an industrial site, that's correct. And he took a chance, and that's what you do when you make an investment, you take a chance. So we're kind of back where we started as far as I'm concerned.
Let me say this, and then we can probably move on. So I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. How much did the developer or whoever purchased the property? How much did they pay for that property?
I think 800 something. I think Mr. McKnight had the figures on that a while back. It was eight. How much on the property appraiser site for the property that we're talking about? 850,000.
is how much of it? I thought the purchase price was $850,000.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so.
Let me ask this, and I had.
Hold on, Master, before you go, let me ask you. So from my understanding, so correct me if I'm wrong. So the developer is pretty much he's pretty much betting that the city is going to get this property annexed. Because from my understanding is the property is now listed for $17 million. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But I hear that now the property is listed for $17 million.
That's
Not-
incorrect.
Not for sale.
Not for sale. Okay.
Not listed for sale.
Okay.
I had that same question,
Okay.
Commissioner, and I reached out to the developer and I had a lot of questions.
Okay.
And I took the time to contact the developer and answer questions that were on my mind, and that was one of the ones, because I'd heard the same thing. Now, I did find out that the property adjacent to it, towards the bay and touching the canal, it was purchased somewhere around 18 years ago, and a person, I believe the owner is in Miami, and very eager to sell it. 18 years, never had an offer. That laid heavy on my thought process. You know, it's one thing to make it sound like all this property is about to be built on an industrial, but let's be real. Look at what has come here in the last 20 years, industrial-wise, and been effective. Eastern Shipbuilding, absolutely. They're employing a lot of people, and they've done a lot of good. I wish they all lived here, but that's not going to happen. You got to have a place to live.
Right.
County's not currently under construction for affordable housing, workforce housing. The city has plans, and last year the road to the work site was vetoed by the governor. So I think it's fair to say the city's ahead of the county in focusing on a place for these workers, school teachers, first responders to be able to live. But that doesn't negate individual from buying property, just like the one from Miami bought those acres 18 years ago. Nobody wants it. That's the truth that we're dealing with today.
We got you. Go ahead, Mr. Cole.
No, I was going to ask the same question you was. Yeah, thank you.
All right. You got anything, Mr.
I just want to reiterate what you said about that. Y'all haven't voted on that, obviously, about holding up what the restrictions would be on the property, but, I mean, that's a vote that you could possibly look at, correct?
Well, Mr. Attorney, if I could, the developer, if annexed into the city, he would have to come back to us to get the land use changed. Correct. Right. So, yeah, at that point. That'd be at the discretion of the city. Yeah, at that point, we would have to vote on that. If the annexation does go through.
But Brett, we would have to have an agreement in place.
I agree.
You know, because we would lose any leverage we have, you know, once that annexation went through.
Or the city, or the county could go ahead and sue the city at that point, which I do not want to get into.
I don't either, but,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the last thing, again, you have, from March 4th forward, you are on a clock, Commissioners. So we can talk about it at our meeting next week. I can give you some more legal instruction. Again, all the questions I think are great, and I think the dialogue is tremendous. That's the purpose of today's meeting under the statute. So I think it's great that you all having this conversation. Unfortunately, the window's short. The city can adjourn it. The city can go into recess. The city can ask more questions. There's no requirement that it has to be done on March 4th, and that way there can be a discussion. I mean, again, there's parties to this that all, I think the commissioner had a very good point, which is there can be counterclaims, there can be liability for everybody. One thing that needs to be said on the record today is that I'm aware of, or the administration's aware of, there's never been any communication with the property owners. We don't have anything to act upon. You don't have a PDRB or a planning board application. You didn't deny anybody anything. So the only thing you can get sued for is an action of this board. And nothing to this date the county has ever done. We haven't had any communications whatsoever, but I think that would be the one way through this in terms of resolution, that the five of each of you gentlemen on both the city and the county continue this dialogue and maybe fill in some of these questions before either body moves forward or before this body sues. The unfortunate thing is under the statute, those rights are limited to those 30 days, and that's the thing that we're working against right now. I think the dialogue, we can meet again and we can continue to hash this out, but we have to be taken off of that clock.
let me ask this, Scott, and I imagine halfway y'all have already been promised that, I mean, you probably wouldn't be pushing so hard if you wasn't promised, you know, we're gonna build these many houses, you'll have these many taps, and, I mean, and that's revenue. I'm just asking the question, laying out on the table. And, you know,
I can tell you this, I haven't spoken to the developer, I haven't seen any plans. All I have heard was condos and possible marina. And I don't even believe he's gonna have access, the developer's gonna even have access to the water there.
right.
With St. Joe property being there. So that's all I know from this point.
He's got access. I believe we'll find out, and I feel confident that either the attorney representing the developer or the developer himself, you know, will make himself available, like he made himself available to me, and would have made himself available to anybody else that had questions. But I think we gotta go back a little bit and remember what we're here for. It's been mentioned at least twice, but we keep getting over in the weeds. We're not here to discuss what the developer wants to do. This meeting is to try and resolve a conflict on the land use and the annexation. Actually, it's just the annexation. That's what this meeting is for. And I realize everyone would like to say, yeah, but we only want to annex it if you do this with it. We don't operate that way. The way the state of Florida operates is if a person, they can be a developer, they can be an individual, buys property, and they go through the steps with the planning board. They don't even have to submit their general plans at the beginning of the planning board process, and most don't. It's because they want to focus on what step one asks them to do. And today, we're here about an annexation of a piece of property. But we're getting bogged down, and we probably spent 75% of this meeting talking about what they want to do. They're not required at this point to even tell us what they want to do. But this particular developer has made themselves more than accessible, answered questions. I want to know, was it for sale? I want to know about the surrounding property. Also, like Commissioner just mentioned, I wanted to know, well, do you even have access to the canal? And I've heard Commissioner Husband inquire, which is a very good point, what about the soil testing? I think you'll find out soil testing's been done, it's been approved, there's no contamination that would preclude this development, and that they already have permits from the Army Corps of Engineers and DEP to access the canal. So that might help a little bit.
Mr. Hoffman, real quick, I somewhat disagree, but do agree. We're also here to figure out a resolution to this due to the fact that we're going to get sued if we allow this annexation to go through, and based on what I'm hearing, we allow a land use change to residential. So I believe all that does come in play.
Eventually it will.
But I believe it does right now. I believe it does right now.
Mr. Chairman, if I can on that, and I understand the city commissioner's points, I think they're very valid points, that they've heard these things or that they have heard through channels. If the city has them in writing, then that's phenomenal. Provide them to the county commission. If you have answers to these questions in writing or legal opinions, provide them to the county so you can fill in some of these blanks. The bottom line, unfortunately, for this resolution is you five gentlemen have a duty to the county, the duty for this piece of property. It is a county parcel. It has been industrial historically. You have a duty to protect the county, and you're on a short window. Once those 30 days go by, you five and the entire county lose all legal rights. All. They're all gone. And so without those answers, very, very vital questions about, you have water access? That's phenomenal. Where'd you get it? Where is it? It's in writing. If there's a legal opinion, provide it to everybody so we can see it. Where are the plans for the project? None of these things are in front of any of us. We're just looking at an aerial map. And so when that 30-day goes up, the duty to the county constituents evaporates. It's gone. This is a non-issue. And so you all have to respond after they do. If they have some of these answers that I'm hearing that they have or heard, then they should present them to the city to put in plans so you have a more colored picture. But right now, unfortunately, you have that duty, and you only have a 30-day to resolve it. That's the purpose of today.
I'm not sure that it's our responsibility. We're not trying to hide anything. What Commissioner Hoffman was saying is he on his own did his job as a city commissioner on an issue. He went to the individual, in this case an individual, that brought this up, which each one of you can do between now and March 4th. Go talk to the gentleman. Ask him to show you what he did. That's our job. You do your homework, and then you make a decision.
That's true, Mayor, but when you're blindsided with something, it's kind of hard to kind of make a decision. But my question is this. So it is county property, right? So could the county change that property to residential? So then my question would be to the developer is, why didn't he just come to the county and then say, hey, this is what my plans are for this property. I want to know if the county will allow to change it to residential, and would you guys be on board with it? But no, he didn't do that.
I believe he did. You might want to check with your staff to find out if they've had that conversation.
You got it?
I've had absolutely no application whatsoever turned in for this piece of property for a land use change or a development order or anything else. There's been nothing, no conversations, no emails, nothing turned in for any project on this site to the planning department.
So then to go back to, unless it's in writing, man, I mean, I can tell you all day everything I want to do with this and that, and you can believe it if you want to, but until I see it on paper, that this is what he's planning on doing, just like he went to you guys, he could have easily came to the county and said, hey, I want to plan to do this at this property, but I'm still having a hard time believing that somebody would want to build a residential development in the middle of industrial. I mean, I'm just kind of confused. And with all and I want to see the DEP paperwork that's saying that soil is not contaminated. I have a hard time believing that soil is not contaminated with what was going on the paper mill project. And then you trying to tell me that what's going on with the chemicals, that I want to see that paperwork. If you can show me that paperwork, I'll have no problem with you guys annexing it. But until I see that paperwork, I wouldn't dare put people residential on that property unless that soil has been cleaned.
So, just so I be clear, Mr. Chairman, if the paperwork is presented today during this meeting, it shows that the property has been soil tested and signed off, approving for residential or whatever growth and development, you're on board to annexing?
If that property is that property is environmentally clean, DEP, because was the paper mill property ever clean, environmentally clean? Because they had a lot of plans for the paper mill property, and what happened? It didn't go through. I doubt that property is going to be clean.
Well, and I would agree with you. We found something else we agree on. I would agree. If I'm presented with paperwork where they had it tested and DEP or the Army Corps or whatever engineering company did the testing and they said, you can't build residential here, but you can build industrial, me and you would agree immediately, because no one with the city is going to allow a developer to put families in homes on contaminated land.
So have you seen the paperwork?
I was just told that the paperwork was there and has been completed, and it passed with no stipulations. That was part of the research.
But you have not seen the paperwork?
No.
Okay.
I was just talking to the developer, but I think that it could happen today.
Let me ask you, and you were also told he had access, granted access,
Yes.
but not by the property owner?
By the Army Corps of Engineers.
But St. Joe owns all the frontage in front of his property.
They have like a,
They don't own that basin.
Well, according to the,
We just,
All right.
So, Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
Jeremy, is there a mechanism that we can talk to the developer? I mean, since he's not submitted us anything, how do we go about, can we, if the city were to delay their March the 4th meeting, can we have a joint meeting with the developer?
Yeah, so Commissioner, it's a great question. The city's driving the train. They started the process under their local laws, which is fine. They need to stick to them and follow them. So they would be the host, they would be the forum, they'd be the conduit, so they can ask these questions, and hopefully they get some of these answers. And then you certainly can all participate by the audience like I do, or we can do another joint meeting after they have that. But right now, we have nothing. We have no petitions, we have no applications. We just have a taxpayer and a landowner in the middle of the industrial park that I guess has expressed an interest to voluntarily annex in. They have to go through those statutory requirements, but the city right now controls this process. So I would hope that they could ask them, invite you all in that short window of time.
let me clarify something. Well, you were asking him if you could go individually and talk to the developer yourself?
Yes, sir. Or
Just you?
Right, yes, sir.
Okay,
Us
I think that's
individually.
a yes or no question. Could he go talk to the developer?
Yeah, Mayor, I would absolutely not want one of my commissioners to have ex parte communications with the land application before the city when we notice them that we're going to sue the city to stop the voluntary annexation for a land use change.
So the
now that
answer
we
is
have
no.
pending, We have pending litigation. We're here to talk about it today. The last thing I want a commissioner for the county to do is go talk to an applicant who wants to move into the city when we've already noticed them that we're going to sue them in 30 days. Because ex parte communication between you and a landowner, then that's going to be part of the record as well. And if the city commissioners have had ex parte communications, I hope they've disclosed them as well in every one of their city meetings up to this point. So no, Commissioner, the answer is no. I would encourage you and recommend that you not do that, sir.
Okay, so is there a mechanism in Chapter 171 that allows for, and I think you answered this with the city driving the train here, could they request that we have a second
It's simple answer, two-step process.
resolution meeting, conflict resolution
Two-step process.
with the developer?
Ready? First step of the process is meet on March 4th and not make a decision. Second, then advertise and notice a public meeting where you all could get back together and have some more answers, because that takes the timeline off of you all, okay? So that's a very simple process, and yes, you can accomplish it. You 10 gentlemen can get together anytime in either the city or the county and have workshops and discuss these things. The only thing that's making you move this quickly is that there's a second reading on the 4th, and that's it. There's nothing to keep all 10 of you talking to one another.
What would preclude us from inviting the spokesperson or attorney for the developer to come to the microphone and present what they would like to present?
It's-
The fact that
yeah.
the meeting is obviously open to the public.
It is, but under the statute, it is the elected official and the county and city staff that come in. There's no public input, there's no testimony. That's for you all. You're in the process right now, Commissioner, of receiving information and testimony and then making decisions upon it. This conflict resolution is simply between these two boards, two government agencies. We're not adding any testimony, we're not adding any content, because it's not part of your record at the City Hall. This is strictly under Statute 171, and this is for the 10 of you gentlemen to try to work through your issues. I would hope, to your point, just as you said, that all that information you all are so hungry for, that would be given to you on the 21st of January and again on March 4th. And if you don't collectively have those 10 answers, that you can't come up with a resolution, that you pump the brakes, you pull back, and then you do have another meeting. But right now, this particular setting today, which you all voted to have, which was a conflict resolution meeting versus a workshop, these are the gentlemen, the staff that have come up, Mr. McKnight, Mr. Crane. You all are the only ones to speak today between your staff.
No, I thought the public would have opportunity.
No,
to
sir,
speak.
that is not in the statute.
I got you.
All right, we good. Y'all good? See. All right, thank everyone for coming to the conflict resolution meeting adjourned.